Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 97 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And I am your host, Brian. And we have a fun-packed show for you. But it's not in the usual way. It's not packed with necessary first chops or dismemberments.
No.
But we have an interview tonight.
An interview.
With someone who we're really looking forward for you guys to getting to know, actually. Her name is Cassie Folts. We met her at New Jersey HorrorCon. So that'll be coming up right after our dismemberment and before our main feature, which is, might as well tell you now, is RE-ANIMATOR. And we thought that would be a great interview to pair with it because they're both, she's a big special effects and makeup person, and that movie had a ton of that in it.
That's right. And rewatching it for the show, I just was again blown away by how much fun the effects are in this movie. And they still hold up really well. So,
oh, yeah. It's amazing. The effects are incredible in this movie for its time, and they still hold up and are better than some stuff you see today, in fact.
But before we get to that, Brian, I wanted to tell you about what I was drinking tonight. Hazard any guesses? It's not
Let's
a beer.
see.
It's not beer.
Okay, if I were Tim and I wasn't drinking beer, let's see. I don't figure you for necessarily a whiskey man.
No.
I think you've had your bourbon every once in a while.
Yes, I have. I've been
so, but should I say not a Scotch man? That's right. You could be a bourbon, but I'm gonna say a Yoo-hoo.
You're actually closer with the Yoo-hoo than you are with the bourbon.
Really? Is chocolate milk?
No. I don't know where Olivia found this, but I am going to state on record that I am the official winner of the earliest pumpkin spice person this year, because I'm starting in April.
Oh my God. She
found a pumpkin pie soda.
What? Oh, did she go to Rocket Fizz?
No, it's some company called Maine Root. M-A-I-N-E. They make a pumpkin pie soda. I've never had this, and I'm going to try it live on the air.
Oh, wow.
Because this could be really good or really bad.
Well, this is like when Mike and EB at Coaster Radio tried the butterscotch beer.
All right, so here we go.
See, if Tim drinks this and he doesn't return, I'll try and move on with this podcast the best I can.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Is it pumpkin-y?
Yes. This is, trying to figure out how to describe this. This is like imagine if butterbeer was pumpkin. So you know they have the pumpkin juice that they sell in Harry Potter World, but imagine that carbonated, and that's what this is. It's actually really good.
I'm going to check Rocket Fizz. Rocket Fizz is like this weird candy, pop culture-y, like weird soda store that's in our area. I think they started in New Jersey. One of our friend Ariel, she knew about it, and they opened one actually in Long Island a couple of years ago, and I've been to it. And they have all those crazy, like broccoli soda and like creamed corn soda and all like 82 types of bacon. I bet you I could find that there. I might have to look at it after your review now.
But this is weird. It's like, it's good, but it has this undercurrent that tastes like a Halloween store. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you go in a Halloween, when you go in a Halloween,
mustiness.
Yeah, like when you go in a Halloween store and it's got like this weird undercurrent of like Halloween costume bags and I don't know. There's you know what I'm talking about. There's a Halloween store smell.
Yeah, but the only problem I'm having is I'm trying to visualize actually tasting it. I mean, I know what it smells like.
Well, imagine pumpkin pie soda on top, and then as you swallow it, it tastes like a Halloween store.
So, like, if someone, like, secretly replaced you're enjoying a nice pumpkin pie, and you take a bite, and then they distract you, and they replace it with, like, an old, like, Creature from the Black Lagoon, like, plastic costume or something, right? Like that.
Like, imagine if you walked into a Toys R Us and ate a piece of pumpkin pie, and then just took a big sniff of, like, of an old Toys R Us that had been turned into a Halloween store.
I have to say, as you know, as weird as that sounds, I still think it's something I long to experience now. So I think I might have to go seek this one out.
Okay, so my initial thing that this was really good. I'm waffling on it, but I think you might need to experience this because I've never tasted a Halloween store in a bottle
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a good co-host and friend, I figure it's the least I can do, right? I mean, we need to share this moment.
Oh,
So, and
I don't know.
I may just try it like not on the podcast, just and I'll report back. So, but we'll see when I get to it. I'll see if I can next time I'm in that area.
I feel like there's chemicals involved. There's definitely chemicals of some sort involved.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I would assume. And that's what I know. Julie, she would like as soon as I pop the cap to that thing, she'd smell it and go, "Oh no," because she could smell chemicals in anything. It's a talent. So, yeah, she'd probably know right away what it's made of. So, well, actually, I'm drinking an odd beer tonight. I will say myself, it's one that it was one of those morbid curiosity type of things. It's by a brewery that I happen to like. It's Captain Lawrence Brewing Company. But the thing is, there's, Carvel has Cookie Puss. Do you've ever seen those?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, they had a line of beer where they make, it's a Cookie Puss, kind of like I guess like a stout type of
Carvel
beer.
had a line of beer?
Well, no, it's Captain Lawrence does the beer, but Carvel, like, they in collaboration with it.
I was about to say, they've really branched out.
But now this year they added Cookie Opus limited edition. So it's rich chocolate in collaboration with Carvel, but here it says, utilizing Carvel's signature chocolate crunchies, fudge, and ice cream, we are proud to brew Cookie Opus, St. Patrick's Day beer in collaboration with Carvel. So I kind of wanted to try this one at a morbid curiosity. So I too will take the first sip live, just so like Tim's not alone out there and his odd tastes did things. Let's see. I will say it smells pretty good. It smells like a good chocolate stout. It's actually not bad.
Okay.
I don't taste the chocolate crunchies like I do that they're famous for, but I do taste. There's definitely for lack of a better words, a fraudulent chocolate flavor in there.
Like Cocoa Pebbles.
Yeah, it's like I know they were attempting for it to be a chocolate flavor, but it's like not quite there. But it's not a bad. I mean, as stouts go, it's right in the middle. I mean, it's definitely drinkable.
That's
and
good.
It'll get me through the podcast.
The more I drink this, the less I taste pumpkin pie, and the more I taste Halloween store. So.
Oh, this is not good. Way too early for you to start tasting the Halloween store. You should be tasting like Target's like inflatable floats right about now, as the summer's approaching.
I think this is like the bin where they had all the candy corn, and then they sold all the candy corn, and then you just lick the bottom of the bin. That's what this tastes like.
And since Tim and I do that every season, so I can relate to what he's saying.
Oh my god!
This has got to be the oddest first chop.
Really we haven't even got to the first chop. We're still in the.
I know that's true.
Chop.
This isn't even the first chop. Yeah, I'm saying it's the first chop, but we didn't even get there.
So without further ado, let's get to our first chop. All right, so Brian, my 40 years of terror continues. This time, I went back a year.
That's right. You were in 97 last year.
Yeah, I was 1997 last year. So I'm 1996 this year, and I dug up one that I have not seen. I've seen the cover a million times. I've heard it's a great werewolf movie. I just have not happened to ever see it. So I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. This is Bad Moon, 1996. This is the Mariel Hemingway vehicle. And it's actually it's actually really, really good. Well, the director did not like her, apparently. He repeatedly says in the trivia that her performance was anemic and that she wasn't a very good actress. So I don't know, but she was fine in this movie. No Dee Wallace, but who is?
Yes.
But yeah, Bad Moon is it's it was based off a novel called Thor, and not the Thor that you're thinking of.
I was going to say not like the God of Thunder.
No, not the God of Thunder. Thor was the name of a German shepherd that this family owns, and in the novel, it's a werewolf movie told from the point of view of the dog of this family that's terrorized by this werewolf. They kind of streamlined and changed some things around in the movie. I have not read the book. I was just reading this from the trivia, but essentially, this family, it's a woman and her son, and her brother comes to stay with him, and he is aware. And why he decides to put his family in danger, I don't know, but he is aware that he is a werewolf. And the werewolf in this thing is spectacular. It's mostly practical effects, very advanced animatronics. So it looks really, really cool. They do use some CGI in some of the transformation scenes. It gets a little janky. But other than that, it's actually a really good werewolf movie. It's got some really good kills. It's not a very heavy body count because it's mainly kind of a family. intimate. That's what I was looking for. Intimate. It's an intimate movie because it doesn't spread out much beyond the family. So you don't have like this huge body count, but it does have some really cool effects, and I'd recommend it. It's pretty cool for a werewolf movie. Bad Moon.
Cool. That's that seems like a fun kind of like a fun one to come across.
It reminded me kind of Silver Bullet-y, maybe kind of vibe to it. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and
I found out I did read actually after I saw this on the rundown. I kind of looked it up on IMDb, and I saw in the trivia section they said the dog's point of view. He said his favorite actor growing up was Peter Bark, but that's just
God.
That's terrible.
So while we have a break before you start, I just found another analogy for this pumpkin pie soda.
Oh, God. It just grows. The legend grows.
So imagine you walk into a Halloween store and you see a Hellraiser mask. And you decide, I'm going to try that on because that looks pretty cool. So you try it on, and while you're inside the Hellraiser mask, you take a straw and dip it up under there and like take a big sip of water. At the same time, smell the inside of the mask as deeply as you can.
So the pumpkin flavor is going away even now.
Now it smells like the inside of a Hellraiser mask.
Oh my God. That's okay. So here's the thing. Now that really cool Halloween store I tell you about, that Ruby's around, by my work, they're year round. So I could actually do a full on taste test of this soda and then go in and try all these things you're saying it's to see if how well it holds up. I'm sure I will be thrown out and asked never to return again, but there's other Rubies.
All right,
so I can go to the other one.
Moving right along.
Yeah. So I continued my Twilight Zone project. I'll go through these fast because we do have a decent size first chop and a lot to get covered. So I'll just kind of go through these fast because this disc only had a couple ones that were really outstanding. The rest were just kind of run of the mill. But the first one is one of those, which is Mr. Dingle the Strong. Of course, Burgess Meredith returns to the Twilight Zone, and he's always a pleasure. And so it's a timid vacuum cleaner salesman is given the strength of 300 men by some experimenting aliens. This is one of those like comical ones.
Yeah.
Really like it's just enjoyable. It's not really like creepy in any way. It's just kind of funny. And Burgess Meredith, of course, makes it because he's Burgess Meredith. Then there's Static, which is an old radio is taking bitter bachelor Ed Lindsay back to a happier time before what he considers a worthless tripe on television when he starts picking up radio programs for the 1930s and 40s. See, in the modern day version, it would be that he stumbles upon a podcast.
Yeah.
But of course, this is still the old one. So then there was the Prime Mover. And it's a compulsive gambler cajoles his friend to use his telekinesis to affect the results of the gambling tables in Las Vegas. And that's funny. There's a lot of gambling themes that go through the original Twilight Zone. So obviously, maybe I guess Rod Serling had this thing about gambling and how he associated. Must have been really something that triggered him on those. And here's the other one that's a real classic.
This one was creepy. I like this one.
Yeah, this one, which is Long Distance Call, and it's a toy telephone becomes the link between a young boy and his dead grandmother. Yeah, this one was creepy because, especially when the grandmother was kind of right towards the end, and she was kind of spouting off some weird things that they just chalked up as kind of like, like her like on medication and stuff. But have you ever seen someone really old is kind of suffering from that? It could almost become all too real, so it does get a little creepy at that point. But so that was one of the more famous ones. The last two was 100 Yards Over the Rim. It says a pioneer from a wagon train in 1847 sets off to find something for his ill son and stumbles into present-day New Mexico. This one seemed like I know there were similar ones that were like this, and it just seemed like they just changed the setting. Really.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Thing. I mean, that's another common theme that the Twilight Zones had, where there was a guy just walking along, and somehow he'd end up back in time or in the future or something. And it's funny as I'm watching them in such succession as I am now. I see the repeat themes way more than I used to when I would see them randomly. So it's kind of interesting. And the final one on the disc was the Rip Van Winkle Caper. And that's after successfully stealing a gold shipment, a group of criminals and their scientist accomplice Scientist accomplice put themselves in a suspended animation in a remote desert cave. When they awaken decades later, complications ensue when their truck is destroyed. And this one wasn't bad. It was decent. I mean, they're all good, the Twilight Zone. There's not really a bad Twilight Zone. It's just there's I think there's styles and themes that I like more than others, and I think this disc had kind of the lesser ones that I tend to gravitate towards. So
yeah, I didn't remember many of those. Obviously, I remember the long distance call one, but that's about it. And I have seen these. It's just they're not very memorable.
Yeah, exactly. Because you probably like the same thing. You probably like the same ones that I do. And yeah. So.
Santa Clarita Diet was canceled by Netflix, and fans are not happy with that. Now, I'd never watched this show. I'd heard really good things about it, but it's one I just never.
Ken was very upset.
Yeah,
Ken reached out to us, and I didn't get to answer it yet. Sorry, Ken, if you're listening to this, because I didn't see it, and I was waiting for Tim, because in case Tim had seen it. So, but basically, to answer your question, from what I understand, people that are fans of it really love it, and it's one that I've had in my queue and just trying to find time to kind of binge watch it. And of course, Drew Barrymore and Timothy Olyphant in it. I mean, it's probably good, right? That's who's right.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, So I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with it. So seems kind of shocking, but then again, in this day and age, nothing gets, to quote Luke Skywalker, no one's really gone forever. So. Who knows if this doesn't get picked up by another streaming service? Yeah, by the way... Shudder could be paying attention and ready to pounce. We don't know.
It was not on the rundown, but Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 3 hit Netflix. So if you guys were waiting, like me, to finish that series off, because it's no longer in production either. But you can finally now catch Season 3 on Netflix, which is exciting for me.
Nice.
Brian, tell us about the last drive-in recap. Unfortunately, I could not make it Friday night. We just had too much crazy mess going on. But I want to hear about Demon Wind and the House of the Devil.
Yeah, so this was Julie was out on a work trip, so it was like I pretty much thank God this was on, because it was going to have a pretty boring Friday night otherwise. And this one, I mean, for those who have not watched the last drive-in yet, first of all, what are you waiting for? But two, the fact that now it's so interactive on Twitter with Darcy leading the way, it's such an event. I mean, it already was an event, but now it's notched up to another level. And this was one of the perfect examples. I mean, I didn't even get to tell you, Tim, in detail, but we were retweeted a bunch of times, and we had a ton of we were really out there involved, and there was a group that was kind of really involved that night, including, of course, our good friend Cody out there. She was tweeting stuff. She was killing it. She had some really good ones, and we were getting retweeted. And she accidentally included. It's a funny story. She wrote something and meant to write to Darcy and tag Darcy at Kinky Horror, but instead it defaulted, I guess, to Kim Burns from Kevin Kett. So Kim wrote back, says, "Oh, it sounds like something I'd like." And then we realizing she didn't know what Cody and I were really talking about. So then we explained it, and then it became a whole funny thing. But yeah, we were going back and forth. It was funny, and I was talking to Cody on through Facebook, and we were just talking about the event, but it started to it took a mind of its own. Darcy had her all-time record of being thrown into Twitter jail about, I think, maybe a half hour into Demon Wind, which was the first title. Yeah, so she had to quickly to jump on Joe Bob's Twitter thing. So we have a lot of retweets from Joe Bob, which is really Darcy that night.
We need to come up with cool. I would love if we had some good chat platform that we could all jump on. And anybody who wanted to jump in, I don't know what the best platform to do it with would be.
Yeah, we should try and find something.
Because that would be cool if we could just do a live chat room, and anybody want to join in, we could. Me and Brian could live comment on the drive-in, and you guys could jump in and talk with us. That would be cool. That'd be really fun.
Can you bring back Merc?
I know. I need to bring back Merc.
Tim can bring back Merc. But the coolest thing is, it's not just all these regular fans are in there. There's actors and actresses that night. That was people. I mean, other than Darcy and Joe Bob in there was Joe Lynch, Barbara Crampton, Jocelyn Donahue, who was in the second feature, which was The House of the Devil, and Graham Resnick, who was I think he did the audio on that. They were all jumping in on it. So it really was it was hilarious because. just like, of course, when Darcy gets thrown into jail, it's like the funniest thing because everyone just starts like trying to free her, and Twitter's probably like, what the heck is going on? These crazy people are emailing us. And so it was, it was really fun. And Demon Wind, oh my God, have you ever seen that movie?
I have successfully dodged Demon Wind, but I want to see it really bad.
Oh my God, that is like the perfect movie for that night, I'll tell you, with all that was going on, because this thing is a war. This would have been, I almost like upset in a way that we didn't discover it to do like a commentary on it.
Oh man,
this thing is crazy. And like Joe Bob's comments through his interstitials were just priceless, because it was like, you got to watch it on the replay, because that'll be the best way for you to really get the thing. Like me telling it to you just won't do it justice, because it was great. And then House of the Devil was I actually really enjoyed that one on just a good level. It was really like slow burn type of movie.
That's a good
one. It
one.
actually had Greta Gerwig in it.
Yeah.
Like and that was a really good one, but it made everyone hungry. And all us East Coasters it's like 1:15 in the morning, and like pizza was a big theme going through this movie. And everyone was hungry and wanted a pizza. But us East Coasters were like, well, it's 1 a.m. We're out of luck, because there's not really many places that are going to deliver at 1 in the morning. So, but yeah, it was fun. It is. I highly recommend everyone out there on one of these Friday nights, you've got to join up in the Twitter. Just get into Twitter, and you can hashtag Last Drive-In. And you always want to. Like usually you'll tag in like Shutter, Joe Bob, and Darcy, and they're usually really good at doing. Like Shutter retweeted us a couple times. Darcy's really good at retweeting, and they interact, and it's just really, really fun.
I'm gonna definitely try to make.
Yeah,
next
I know
week.
Cody had a good time.
Yeah, I got to try to make next week for sure. Because
yeah, and yeah, Tim, that's a good idea though. We'll try and we'll do some research into to getting like another chat button, because it may not, I mean, just for this, but for other like events that are in horror that may work for this, any other premieres and stuff.
All the young people listening are probably like, God, it's so obvious, but I don't know what the platforms are. I'm old and I don't know things.
Yeah, Tim and I are old.
So speaking of technology things, Twitter polls. Brian, you started some Twitter polls. Civil Gore Twitter polls, which actually were pretty successful. But we kind of wanted to hear from everybody. Do you like the polls? We were sitting there coming up with different ideas. I thought it'd be fun. It was fun for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I tell you, the last one was the one I think that was the most successful, that Stephen King one. And I know your brother will be very happy to know that Maximum Overdrive won that poll.
I figured it would.
So yeah, keep an eye out. We'll put some more out there if you guys like them. And it seemed like each one we put more, it got more attention. Yeah. So it seems like it's something that's pretty interesting. We got some good interaction with it. So
now this next one I'm really excited about. Really excited, because Travel Channel is doing a Ripley's Believe It or Not reboot hosted by Bruce Campbell, premiering June 9th. And I am a huge Ripley's Believe It or Not fan. I used to get the books. I even had the old PC adventure game. I don't know if you remember that one, Brian.
Oh my God, I did. I never got to play it, but I remember seeing it.
I had that one. And obviously the museums. I love the museums. I've read Robert Ripley's biography. Like everything I love about Ripley's Believe It or Not. So I was super excited. And then, of course, the old show hosted by Jack Palance. Which is, he always had that weird...
Believe it or not.
Yeah, like it always seemed like a threat rather than a question.
Yeah.
So...
like it didn't matter what you chose. Like he was giving you a choice, but he had his choice.
Oh, yeah. No, you had no choice. You believed.
Yeah, you really didn't have a choice. You just read the script, but he knew what he wanted you to do.
So, man, I cannot wait for that. I'm so excited about that. When I saw you post that, I about flipped out of my chair.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool, exciting thing. And your Travel Channel just always has some great stuff on it anyway for us horror fans. Their ghost adventure, but this is a cool one.
Yeah,
this I'm really excited for.
Brian, I'm going to skip the next one and leave that to the end.
Yeah, we'll save that as the last.
Our favorite Freddy cosplayer, Nightmare Worcester. I always want to say that.
Yeah, you got it, Worcester. Yeah.
Will be appearing at the Hudson Valley Comic-Con May 11th and 12th. Located at the Gold's Gym and Exhibition Center in Poughkeepsie, New York.
It's the Poughkeepsie Tapes. Home of the Poughkeepsie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and we're actually we reached out to him. We're gonna have him on an upcoming episode. Actually, he's a really cool guy, and he's really like we said, he's just a great cosplayer, and so we're actually really interested in talking on him about how he got started and stuff. So we'll have that interview for you in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, cool. This next one I just stumbled across because I heard about it on the Shockwaves podcast. One of the guys was talking about it, but Tales from the Crypt put out a CD, and I don't actually know when the CD was released, but apparently they put out the CD of audio Tales from the Crypt episodes. And they're basically acted out as old radio dramas. And
oh my God,
they are on YouTube. Some guy posted all of them on YouTube. I believe there's 7 or 8 of them. And you can find them by looking up Tales from the Crypt Seeing Ear Theater, which is I guess the production company or whatever that did these. I listened to the first one, and it's a lot of fun. It was called Island of Death. And it's just exactly what you would think. It's a full radio play, but there's sound effects, there's music. There is the Tales from the Crypt theme song sung by the Crypt Keeper with lyrics.
Oh my God. John Cassier did it?
Yes. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the new theme of the show.
It's got
listen or not.
Yeah, it's got the actual Tales from the Crypt. You didn't know the theme song had lyrics? Well, it does, because Crypt Keeper sings them. It's amazing.
Why didn't he do it during the karaoke? I ask you.
I don't know, but I can't. I can't wait to listen to the rest of these. So
I know. I happen to love old radio dramas.
Yeah.
I remember one of the coolest ones, a little off topic in terms of the content, but it's still in radio drama. I remember one time I was driving home from my friend's house after a holiday party. My friend Dom, he lived in Brooklyn. It was years and years ago. And it was, I don't know, I guess it was like a week before Christmas. And I don't know what it was. I was just stumbling I was just trying to go through radio stations, and it was like about an hour and a half drive back that night because there was some traffic I hit, and I stumbled upon some old radio drama that they were replaying, some holiday one, and I was just like, there's just something so cool about it, you know? Like when you hear a story like laid out for you on in that manner on the radio, and it's something that I wish really started to kind of come back in a way, but I know with this technology, people need more stimulation than just
yeah. Well, there are there's a lot of good podcasts that are basically horror dramas.
That's true.
So,
there is,
so
yeah,
you can get it that
so
way.
it is back.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, there is also another thing I heard about on Shockwaves, but I'm really excited about this. So Rebecca McKendry, of course, is one of the Shockwaves hosts. She worked for Fangoria for many, many years. She is going to be doing a new podcast called Nightmare University, and it debuts this week. So as you're listening to this show, you should be able to get the first episode, and it's a 30 to 45 minute deep dive into various horror genre elements. And I think the first episode is about aquatic monsters. So
oh my God, that's right up Tim's
alley.
Oh
my gosh, I cannot wait. Rebecca always has like a really strong passion and her depth of movie knowledge makes me and Brian look like, preschoolers. She's seen so many movies, so I cannot wait to hear this. And they promise this is not an interview show. It's not like they're just sitting there and interviewing people. They're really talking and discussing about all aspects of a particular horror element in movies. So I cannot wait for that one. She's also got another show she's going to be doing in between. That's going to be kind of like a mini-sode type format that talks about stories from her days working at Fangoria. So,
oh my gosh, she is busy.
Yeah, she's really killing it right now. So I really can't wait because all the Shockwaves guys are just incredible. So I cannot wait.
And she's particularly, I loved her movie that she did.
Yeah,
All the Creatures Were Stirring. So
so I can't wait. Anything those guys put out, I will listen to in a heartbeat. So I recommend you do the same. And then finally, a huge
that leads perfectly into this. Though leads
perfectly in. Universal Monsters House announced for Halloween Horror Nights. Now that one was rumored for last year. I believe California got it, right? Didn't they get it?
I don't know if they got this one. They may have gotten something. I don't know if they got this exact one that they're planning. I don't know. I have to look back because we weren't paying attention. We kind of neglected California's.
Yeah.
Because we were so excited about going to our East Coast one here in Orlando. But I'll tell you, now, Tim and I were just saying today, we're like, well, how do we get back there now?
Yeah.
It might be tough this fall just because of your brother's wedding and some other stuff going on we want to do. But yeah, that is tempting, especially when we saw that the creature is going to be featured in it at one point.
I know. That's
a tough one, Tim. We might have to look into seeing if there's a cheap way to do it.
Yeah, somebody find out the cheapest possible way you
Yes.
can go to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes, we want to. If there's a budget Halloween Horror Nights podcast out
Can we
there,
sleep on your couch?
yeah, like can we just like hang out? Actually, who says we need to sleep? Maybe we could just do one of those Beardman specials where we fly and go and then fly back really late.
Yeah, that might be it.
We just do one day.
Oh my god!
But then again, we're gonna want to do that Harry Potter coaster, so we need to somehow finagle
Oh
that
my
one in.
gosh,
But that's
I don't know.
But I think I'd skip that if it meant just getting into the horror nights.
Yeah. Well, my mom does want to go to Universal. She told me, she said, I really, really want to go to Universal. I've never been. I said, well, I can probably make that happen. And then we got a babysitter.
And then I'll be sleeping on your floor.
Yeah. Well, then we got a babysitter
kinda
for when we go to Halloween Horror Nights. My mom keeps the kids at the hotel.
That's true.
We could make this
we
work.
could do it. We could do it on the cheap. We could figure this out. Let's see. Well, unless Civil Gore just somehow hits it big in that time period, and then
we get bought out by Shockwave.
They're just like pulling us in there. They're just like, "What do you mean you're not coming here? Hold on. Here's the grand suite." You know.
All right. So finally, we have to talk this because we're nerds and we like
Yes.
movies, and we explained this last episode.
But this will be no spoilers.
No spoilers. Brian and I saw Avengers Endgame. And so, Brian, we have not talked about what we thought about
No.
to each other. So I'm just going to give you my thoughts.
Okay.
And absolutely hated it. No, I'm just kidding. It exceeded my expectations on a level I did not know was possible. Like, that movie summed up everything, was so satisfying. A conclusion. I could not have been more happy walking out of that movie theater.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way, and I'll even and I'll add this too. It's like when you think of what they had to do, they had to not just sum up the own little series of Avengers films, but of literally 22 other Marvel movies tied in that was leading up to this moment. So this thing was ripe for them to essentially not hit the mark.
Right.
But somehow they did. And even better than you could possibly imagine. I mean, Julie, she's a fan of this stuff, but like not, probably not the level of Tim and I or something. Even she was just like blown away, and it was, it's hard to not give anything away, but we're not going to, I promise. Just as a global scope of it, by saying that they had a monumental task, in my opinion, and they found a way to succeed in the best way possible for it.
And it did not feel like 3 hours. I sat through that whole movie. I never even went to the bathroom. I literally.
Yeah, I know. I had to start go. I will say I had to go towards the end, and as soon as like the final thing and the lights went on, I bolted out to it. But yeah, no, I like, it's like one of those things where you don't feel like, regardless if someone says, oh yeah, you could probably go with this stuff. No, I don't think there's really a time to go. I don't care what Run P says. Because it's like you just get so immersed in this. And, and I think just Marvel, just in general, as a series as a whole, the way they've just created this universe that you feel a part of. And then to have it come to this, and it's really, I mean, you say it's the end, but it's the end and it's not, because obviously this is end of phase.
Yeah, there'll be
3.
other.
Well, actually, technically, Spider-Man, I guess, is Far From Home is the end of phase 3. They're saying, or something. I don't know. I lose track of the phases, but basically, yeah. And it's not like the end of Marvel movies as we know it. Of course not. There's like they've already announced sequels and slates of things, and
Yeah.
but there is a finality to this that they had to reach, and I think they just, I mean, like, I just only hope that the JJ can do the same for Star Wars that they did for Avengers here, because this was one of those, I don't think we'll ever see quite a film event of the culmination of this type of series in our lifetime again. I think this was I mean, you say, oh, nothing's what, but no, I think this might be a once in a lifetime.
Yeah, because
thing that
I was talking
did.
to Kevin about it tonight, because he was asking. He's only seen one Marvel movie in his life. He saw Black Panther, and he said,
Right, he picked a really good
"Yeah."
one.
He's like, "What is the deal with this Avengers Endgame? I don't understand." And I said, "Kevin, the only way I can describe it to you is because I described it to him in Star Wars terms. I said, now imagine if Star Wars was 22 movies, and you were going to go see the final one. That's kind of the hype level. Now, granted, like you said, it's not really the final one, but for some of these characters, it might be. So that was kind of my point. Was it's not just like you're going to go see a sequel. You're seeing a 10-year culmination where 22 movies fed into the same storyline. It's incredible. Right. It's an incredible accomplishment.
And you know what it reminds me of? So I don't know if you remember this back in, I was in like going through high school at this time. And do you remember the Secret Wars series that Marvel did?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So remember how it was almost like that, where they had their Secret Wars. It was more Secret Wars 2, actually. So they had Secret Wars. Then when Secret Wars 2 came out, they decided to up it by not just having the limited edition series of Secret Wars, but a whole series of tie-ins in all their regular comics.
Yep.
And I remember it had that little thing in the corner, the triangle that said part of Secret Wars 2. So in order to get the entire experience, you not only read all the Secret Wars 2, but you read all the other comics. And it actually got me into reading comics that I weren't reading at the time, but I had to have everything that was Secret Wars 2. So, and this was like the visual representation of that, where they managed to do all these standalone films that all tied in, and it's amazing when you watch, because you're like, all these things, you're just like, oh yeah, that was from this, oh that was from that, oh this is, and you feel like you've just been in this universe forever. Yeah. And it really has only been 10 years, but it feels like it was like 50, because it was such a thing, and they did everything right. That's the best thing I can say, is they did everything right.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And anyone that's like wondering if it's I can't imagine someone coming out of that movie disappointed. I just can't.
I haven't heard anybody. Nobody that I know that have seen it. Now I've had a couple people say they liked Infinity War better, which I was okay, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, but I could see why some people would, and I don't want to say why, because that could be semi-spoilerific.
But I don't think anybody was disappointed with it.
No, I don't think you can be. You cannot be a fan of this. If you were a fan and you invested yourself this whole time, there's no way you could be disappointed with this. Yeah. You just can't.
It was awesome.
Because, it was awesome. That was. So that'll be enough. We'll one day we just got to do a nerd side of podcast of just all the Tim and I other nerd things that we like. Well, but I will say one thing. I didn't put this on the rundown, but it's only because I think I lost the track. I thought I was going to put it on next week, but then I realized the date wise, then it would be after the fact. Just so you know, my friend Paul's movie, You Can't Say No, which we mentioned on before, is actually going to get officially released on May 7th on VOD and various VOD platforms, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm going to so definitely, guys, check that out. It's a really great film. Of course, it's not horror. It's and it's not, they kind of play it off as a romantic comedy, but it's way more than that. It's got a lot of depth to it. Paul did an amazing job with this movie. The performance was great. It was Marguerite Moreau. Of course, you might remember her from The Mighty Ducks. There's Hamish Linklater, Peter Fonda, William Schacky, Hoos Miller, and of course, it was directed by our good friend Paul Kramer. So definitely give it a shot on VOD platform, whichever one you have there. Definitely give it a shot. It comes out May 7th.
Awesome. All right, so let's get right into probably our shortest dismemberment ever. These are
seriously.
These are the Blu-ray.
Do I even get a guess? I didn't even look.
No, you don't. You don't even get a guess for this one.
Wow,
it's literally 2 titles. So these are the Blu-ray releases for May 7th, 2019. Our dismemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't come up.
The first thing up, there's the What We Do in the Shadows TV series is out to high critical acclaim. I still need to watch it because I've heard it's hysterical. But so they did a reissue of the Blu-ray. I could not find much about this reissue, if they've added anything. I saw some forum posts where some people said a commentary, this and that. I don't know. I just know this movie's been out on Blu-ray before. It's being reissued next week, so take that for what you will. It's probably just a tie-in with the success of the TV show.
And that's my guess. I've seen this. It's about a bunch of vampires that... No.
Yeah. So the first official released this week, new release that is The Prodigy. This was from this year, released by MGM.
This must not have done well, because didn't this get released like in late January,
I feel like it was just
February?
in the theater, but It was directed by Nicholas McCarthy, starring Jackson Robert Scott, Taylor Schilling, and Peter Mooney. A mother concerned about her young son's disturbing behavior thinks something supernatural may be affecting him. And the Blu-ray actually does have an audio commentary with director Nicholas McCarthy, some promotional featurettes, and a gallery. So for them to have a commentary on a recent release, I mean, props to them for that. I actually heard good things about this movie from the people that saw it. So
yeah, a lot of people said it was pretty good.
It was pretty
good. I mean, they said it wasn't the greatest of films, but it was formidable.
Yeah, so I don't know. Next up is The Nightcomers from 1971. This is released by Kino Lorber, directed by Michael Winner, starring Marlon Brando, Stephanie Beacham, and Thora Hird. This one's kind of interesting in that it's a prequel to Henry James' The Turn of the Screw, focusing on groundskeeper Peter Quint's slow corruption of the virtuous governess Miss Jessel and the children she looks after. And some good special features on this disc. There's an audio commentary with the director Michael Winner, an introduction by Michael Winner, a new audio commentary by film historian Kat Ellinger, theatrical teaser and trailer. So if you want to see a spooky Marlon Brando film, there's your chance. And that's our only 2 titles for May 7th. Just a very quiet horror week.
Yeah, and the Nightcomers movie does not star Roger Moore, in case people were wondering.
No, it does not.
Everyone's like, huh?
That's an inside joke. That's an editing joke. But anyway, so let's get to our interview with Cassie Folts. She is a special effects and makeup enthusiast and has her own company doing makeup effects. She's done a lot of stuff in the industry. It was really cool to talk to her. And I thought it was just a fantastic interview, Brian.
Oh, it was great. And, we met her at when we met her at New Jersey Horror Con. We had just a great conversation with her. She was one of our favorites, so we were really excited that she agreed to come on and chat with us for a little while. It was a really good interview, which you will hear right now. Okay, so one of the things that Tim and I talked about for this season of Civil Gore, we wanted to definitely get some more interviews, and we wanted to make sure it was a wide variety of guests, people that are not just in the industry as an actor or a director, but also some people that just have other aspects of a career in the industry. And when we went to New Jersey Horror Con, we met a ton of awesome people just at the booths doing all kind of creative things. And one of our favorites was a company called ALEXIS ARTISTRY, and it's run by Cassie Folts, and we have her here on the show today to give her an interview. So welcome, Cassie.
Hello, everybody.
How are you today?
I am great. How are you guys?
Good.
We're doing fine. So, Cassie, New Jersey Horror Con was awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I love meeting all the vendors and meeting all the guests, of course, but it was just such a laid-back, cool show. So it was very exciting to have you on the show. Why don't you tell us what got you into horror in the first place? Are you like a huge horror fan?
I am. Actually, I was born on Halloween, so I've always kind of been naturally drawn to anything like weird and freaky and like all of the macabre. So horror's kind of been something of mine since birth.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it all started. And then my family, of course, they're very like traditional. But my great-grandmother and my Aunt Marilyn were both horror fans themselves, and they loved like the 70s and the 80s genre. My great-grandmother loved Halloween. That was just her thing. Like Jamie Lee Curtis she loved that woman. Can't even begin to describe to you like the wonderful things she has to say about her. Like she loves her. And my aunt was into like all of the creature features. We're talking like Jaws and Gremlins and, all of like the B movie kind of like cheesy horror. And ever since I was a little kid, they've always introduced me to all those types of movies. And there's home video footage of me bouncing around to Michael Jackson's Thriller.
That's awesome.
So it's always just kind of been present in my life. Like it's never gone away. I don't ever foresee it going away. Like I have an undying passion for it, and I love horror. Absolutely love horror.
Oh, that's awesome. So what I know you mentioned some films there. So different family members and stuff. But what are your like biggest favorite films out of if you had they said, okay, give me a top 5 or something. Of course, you don't have to do exactly a top 5. But, if you had a handful of movies or your favorites.
It is so hard to choose. I mean, I guess like I'm a big fan of the 80s genre as well. Like I like a lot of the slasher movies, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know. I mean, I like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a good one. Elvira, I love Elvira. Fun fact, I was actually named after the actress that plays her, Cassandra Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
there you go. Nice.
Yeah, that is definitely. I met her at Monster Mania Con, so that was kind of like a dream come true. I never foresaw that happening. It was just like unreal.
She seems like a super cool person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it was so funny because she was kind of like so tired from the weekend and just like all the traveling that she had been doing to all these different cons. And well, she was asking me what my name was when I was first talking to her and before she did all the signing. And then she pauses and then she's like, "Oh, what was your name again?" And I said, "Cassandra." And she's like, "Oh, that's right, sweetheart. You just said that, how you were named after me." And she's just like going on and about, like she's just all giggly, and she's amazing. I love her.
Yeah, we always joke. We're like, especially when we saw it at the New Jersey Horror Con, we're like, we got to hand it to all those guests that show up there because they have such an exhausting schedule. They have to be on that whole day. Well, we see like snippets of them, but you should know, you were actually at your booth, so I mean, you kind of had to do the same thing, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like it was actually my first con that I've ever officially vended. I have a lot of other artist friends that I like to work with. In the past, I've worked with, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, but Horror Show Jack. He does custom fangs for everybody.
I think I have heard of him, actually.
He was at Jersey Horror Con, but he's usually at pretty much any con that pops up like anywhere.
It does sound familiar.
Infamous.
Yeah.
But I've worked aside him, and I have a few filmmakers that I've done some work for. I was a zombie in their films. I did the makeup on their films. I was in a calendar once. I mean, the work is just endless. I could go on forever about that, but this was the first time, Jersey Horror Con, where I actually got to vend for myself and like promote myself. And it was crazy. Like it was awesome, but it was just so like time pressed. Like I had to be up at a certain hour and be down there at a certain hour, and just like everything was like really on point. But
right.
It was a little easier to manage because I had my boyfriend with me. So like I don't think I could have done it by myself for the first time. But yeah, I totally hear you about all the celebrities. I mean, they major props to them. Like, I'm hoping someday that might be me.
Well, you're on your way. We stopped by your booth, and we actually we said it on the show, but we meant it. It was one of our funnest stops we had that day.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, you guys. And I was so worried because there were a couple of times when I did leave my booth because like I wanted to do some of the photo ops and like catch some of the panels and things like that. And like I had been hearing that the second that I would leave my booth that I would get a ton of people come by, and like people were asking me for the pictures and like they wanted to get makeup done, and I was just like, where were you 5 minutes ago?
Well, yeah, maybe they were nervous. Maybe they wanted to purposely wait till you were away so they could just look at their stuff, and then they were too shy.
Yeah, definitely.
What made you want to get into makeup and effects?
So my very first job, I was 14 years old. I worked for the park that's called the Great Escape, and
I know that well. The park, the amusement park, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's in Lake George.
Yep, I've been there.
Oh, okay.
Well,
so
we're
you
big
know the
theme park
place.
fans. We should just tell you. So anytime you mention a theme park, odds are we'll know it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know then. So you don't think I'm just speaking total gibberish here. So I worked at Great Escape at my first job, and they got picked up by Six Flags eventually, but I think it was like maybe 5 or 6 years or so after I had worked there. But I worked for them for 10 seasons, and I did everything under the sun. It started out with me just being like a no-name actor where like they told me to just press buttons and something that's very boring. Like I wasn't really into it the first year, and then the second year, they actually didn't have a lot of the cast return. So a lot of opportunities opened up for me to become like part of their shows. And so I got to do a lot of their zombie dances and just like, a bunch of just random things for them here and there. And one day I just kind of like apprenticed to be a makeup artist. It was just like, here, would you like to try this? And they handed me the airbrush, and I fell right in love with it. I mean, I've always been an artist. Like, I do a lot of painting and, like artsy stuff. So I figured that makeup was kind of like a really cool way to like ease into the horror business because it's like something that will always be in demand.
That's so cool. That's such a cool story. And the fact that it had a theme park involved in it, too, is like bonus points for me and Tim.
That's right, yeah.
Because we're big theme park nerds, so we got to...
The theme park life is it's a whole nother world. Like, the amount of attention that you get and, like, the love that you get from other horror fans, it's amazing. Like, there's nothing that could replace it. I love it.
That's cool. So what was so basically out of all your now at this point you've become like you started in your path to doing makeup and effects. So what's your favorite type of makeup and effects you like to do?
Definitely zombie makeup. Anything that involves a lot of blood and gore, I'm your girl.
Yeah, you fit right in on this show. I mean, that's in our title.
Yes, exactly. Like I just started probably within the last year or two getting into like beauty makeup, and I only did that just so I have like the knowledge of it, but it's definitely not my thing. Like I'll do it if you want me to do it for a project, but like if you hand me a giant gallon of blood, like I would so much rather pour that over somebody's head than do like some sparkly fairy kind of stuff.
Just don't get them mixed up if they do hire you for one and then you bring the bucket of blood. And it's like for a wedding or something.
What's wrong?
Like children's face painting.
Yeah. Sorry, I only have red with me, but
As a lover of horror movies and a lover of obviously makeup and special effects, if you could pick any horror franchise to work on, which one would that be? If you like zombies, I would guess Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I used to love The Walking Dead when it first came out, and I don't know if I'm really ashamed to say it or not, but kind of don't care for it too much anymore. Like it just kind of got like less zombies and more people are probably going to hate me for saying this, but whining.
Yeah, no. I mean, my wife and I are the same way.
I feel like it's just a lot of like, I mean, I like the story and all and where it's going, but you don't see a lot of zombies or like a lot of the makeup anymore. You just see them like, oh, what was me? We're in an apocalypse. Like, what are we going to do? Or so-and-so died. I'm going to cry about it for 3 episodes. Like that. I don't really like all of that. But aside from that, Greg Nicotero, I mean, he is 100% one of my idols. Like, the guy he's a legend. He's worked on so many TV shows and films that are, like, epic. Like, I can't even begin to talk about like where he started and where he is now, just like the progression of the films that he's been on. And I'm a film collector, so I have like a huge movie collection, and
I can relate.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Our whole living room is like set up to be like a theater. So yeah.
That's right. I saw that. I meant to ask you about that, but I didn't do. And I don't know if I told you, Tim. I saw on. I don't know if you saw on Cassie's Instagram. She posted some of her stuff, and she's got this like little horror snack bar she set up, kind of a thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, my haunted snack bar.
Haunted snack bar. Yeah, you got to see this, Tim. You got to go look at it. It's really cool. Anyone out there listening, obviously go. Well, Cassie will tell you all her social media things at the end, but yeah, you got to look at this because this is a really cool little setup.
Thank you. I just randomly came up with that one. It's just like it was so perfect because it's just like this little nook that's in our apartment, and we have kind of a small space here, but it was so perfect. I used it for originally to be kind of like my photo space for when I did do makeup, that it was a really good background. And then like I had this little cheesy tablecloth with like bloody handprints that just kind of kept falling down over and over, and it became really annoying. So I was just like, You know what? That would actually make a really good snack bar. I have this little like rolling cart thing that has all the snacks on it, and popcorn and candy and whatever you can think of. And then I just kind of like worked around it, like added all of my autographs that are like horror themed, of course. And I got some Elvira up there. I have the Crypt Keeper. I mean, I love it. It's my little like space.
You must have like the host the best movie nights, you guys. I swear that must be so much fun. Like, it's bad you go over there to watch a horror movie, and then like all of a sudden this cool horror themed snack cart comes rolling out. That would be the coolest thing.
We have yet to host a movie night, but we definitely plan on it because we actually just moved here like 2 months ago. So going to all these conventions and just being out and about all the time, like we very rarely have the same time off to be able to just like sit and host a party. But it's on the to-do list for sure. I mean, all this cool stuff, you can't not have a bunch of people see it.
Right, and now that my big mouth is like said it now, like all your friends that'll listen to it, they'll be like, yeah, what about this movie
You're
night
like,
that
hey, why
they
don't
said?
I get an invite?
We heard you on the show. You said you wanted to do it. So yeah. So okay, so
But,
going back a little bit
anyway, yeah.
it's a little theme park related again there, because so Tim and I are huge fans of not just the theme parks but the haunted attractions in general. Like the haunt season is like our season. We always try and get to some. So so I guess you worked on some, I would assume, there, right, at Six Flags. And if you did, like what kind of stuff or what kind of other places did you work on that was a haunted attraction?
So I have pretty much been all over upstate New York. Like there are very few haunts, like whether they're just run out of somebody's home and they're like really small, or theme parks that there's very few around here that I can't think of where I haven't had a guest spot. A major one was Double M's. That is in Ballston Spa, and it's a haunted hayride. So that year, I only worked at one season, but I was acting for that season, and I was basically like a victim of a horrific car crash, and the crazy like mechanic guy was after me, and so I kind of just ran around the hayride and screamed and one of those deals. So that was one season. I've done a couple of makeup spots in Massachusetts. There's a place called the Factory of Terror.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Was it on like Travel Channel once, I think? I want to say I saw an average or something on that.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they have like a couple of different divisions like located in different states. Like the one that I was at was in Massachusetts, but I think they have one in Philly, I want to say, or Pennsylvania somewhere. And then I think they have one like out on the West Coast. But yeah, like it's a pretty big deal. I mean, like I would think that it would be they have like these enormous animatronics and like their props are just crazy.
Yeah, I want to say it was on one of those channel specials, the ones that Tim and I seem to record and watch every year as if we hadn't seen them. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and I could have sworn, and that title, that Factory of Terror, sounds so familiar, right? When you said it, and then you said there was animatronics involved. I kind of remember.
It does sound familiar, yeah.
Yeah, like one part that I remember so vividly is when you get to the end of it, they have like, I mean, spoiler alert, they have like this giant dragon looking thing. Like I don't even know if it's a dragon or like there's some kind of just beast, and it like comes out of the hole, and it is massive.
Wow,
like,
I gotta check this out.
I was so impressed. The thing, it actually scared me. It was like a jump scare kind of thing. But I mean,
Tim's got to stay away. Tim's I don't know. I know you're just kind of new to the podcast, but it's been a running theme that Tim is a very, very susceptible to jump scares.
I am, yeah.
It's okay. I am too. Like I work behind the scenes in them, but if I go through them and like I don't know the actors and I don't know what to expect, I totally fall for the jump scares every time.
So this is just a practice, I think, right? You're doing all these, but you're gonna eventually be at Halloween Horror Nights, right? And then
Yes, and that's actually what I was going to get into when you asked me what franchise I would like to work for. I've never really sat and thought about like any kind of movies specifically that I would want to work for, but I have always, always wanted to work for Horror Nights. Like, I have only been to Orlando once, and it was on our senior trip, and it was in the middle of summer, so I missed out on Horror Nights, but I've known about it for many years, and like, they're just spectacular with what they do, and like, I would love to work for them someday. Either that, or if it's still going on, I don't know if he still does it or not, but I would love to work for Rob Zombie. Like, I know that he's had haunts, I think in Chicago or somewhere in that general area where they're based on like House of a Thousand Corpses, and I
Oh
think he had
wow.
one that was 31. But yeah, like, I love Rob Zombie, so I would love to work for him as well. So it's not really like franchises, but I mean, they're like places that I've thought of working. It would be awesome. I mean, upstate New York is cool, but like, there's really not much around here. It's like, it's few and far between. I mean, we live like in the middle of nowhere, so it's just kind of like most opportunities you have to travel to find. So
Yeah, well,
That's cool
Halloween
though.
Horror Nights was incredible, as Brian and I can attest last year.
Yeah.
It was
our
our
first
first
one.
time, and it met every expectation and exceeded them, I think. And we had been hyped about that for years, wanting to go down there, and I was not disappointed at all.
I don't doubt that. Not at all. I love that they change it up every single year. Like, it's different every year. I know that they have like generic haunts, but like, they'll choose a different movie and then just create a world that you can just walk into, and you're just like submerged into that film.
We'll say though that the actual the non like IP ones, the non movie ones are actually some of the coolest ones. We were like blown away
Really?
at the difference, yeah, because they do it as if you're watching a brand new horror movie. There was one called Slaughter Cinema last year. That was
Hmm.
basically, it was the whole theme was that you were like kind of caught in the B movies at a drive-in, and it was
Oh,
just
nice.
the detail was insane. If you could get a chance to look it up, look up some pictures of it. It was and Tim and I both, we were so blown away at the little fake movie titles. We each bought a Swamp Yeti T-shirt because that was one of the movies featured. So we had to get that.
We are proud Swamp Yeti wearers.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the
That's
best
that's
one.
great. And I am a sucker for detail. Like, if there's one thing that I'm like really proud of myself for, is when I do my makeup, especially if it's like a zombie or something where like your face is rotting or like a bone is sticking out, anatomy. Like, I'm huge about detail, like paying attention to detail and making it look as realistic as possible. Like, if I'm doing a makeup for somebody that's like a full character, I want to make it look like they're walking out on set and someone is looking at them like terrified, like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" kind of makeup. Like, I'm such a sucker for detail. Like, that is one thing that I cannot live without. And
That's
if like I
awesome.
don't like a makeup that I've done, I won't let them walk out with it. Like, I'll just be like, "Nope, sorry, scratching it. We're doing the whole thing from scratch again."
Come back,
Like,
we're gonna rip this off.
yeah, exactly. Be like, brace yourself, rip it off like a band-aid. We're doing
Yeah.
this again.
Nice. Well, that's a good work ethic to have, though. I mean, you take pride in your work. So,
Yeah.
so you said that New Jersey Horror Con was the first time you had vended at a con, but you go to a lot of horror cons. Is that correct?
Yes, my very first con was in 2013, and it was here in Albany. It was called FantaCon. I don't think that they have it here anymore. I think it was just like 1 or 2 years. It was a combined horror and sci-fi convention, but that was my first one ever. I met Ari Lehman, and that was, I think, a good way to get into like the convention bug, if you want to call
Yeah.
it that.
Oh, he's awesome. When we met him at New Jersey HorrorCon, he was one of the coolest guests.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had told him and showed him the picture from that year of when I met him, and he like embraced me with a hug, and he was just like, "It's so exciting to see you again. Like, at least you're still alive." He was like making all kinds of jokes like that. And he's great. So that was kind of what got me into the horror cons. And then they really, like I was saying earlier, there's really not a lot to do here in upstate New York. So most cons I'll travel to if they're only like a few hours away, but it's always well worth it no matter the destination. We have gone to Monster Mania. I went last year to the March and the August show. missed out
wow.
this time around because I had Jersey, so I was like, I can't really afford all of them, unfortunately.
That's the
But
tough part. There's so many to
yeah.
go to and just so limited funds.
Exactly. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if we didn't have to add all of the extra travel into it, but you got to worry about like food and gas and the hotel, and it just becomes like a whole separate expense other than worrying about like what celebrities you want to meet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also Scaricon, which that was in Utica, I want to say, out of Utica or like, oh, is that Turning Stone? So wherever Turning
Oh, the
Stone is.
casino, right? The
Yes,
casino's
yes.
up there. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Forgive me for not knowing like the town. I'm bad with towns.
I just knew it as a casino because my brother used to go there in college all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's a great place. Like the place is huge. There's a lot to do in the area, and like we visited a haunt while we were out there. It was called Kaio, and it was like they had 8 different attractions, and it was like unlike anything I've ever seen before. Like they had this one that was like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing, but it was like kind of post-apocalyptic, and it was just different. But they had like an airplane crash, and they legit had like a broken down airplane like just
Oh, wow.
chilling in the haunt, and like
Oh, that
we were
sounds
like
cool.
walking over it, and like they just made it so realistic. I was like, wow, this is impressive. And like all of their actors were like contortionists, so they were just bending in all
No.
kinds of crazy ways and like crawling up the walls and on the floor, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
you
see,
guys are awesome.
see, there's what Tim's Achilles heel is the is the jump scare. Anyone contorting and crawling on walls and ceilings, that's mine. There's actually one you have to. I have to say, I know there's a little off. Well, not off topic from that, but off I guess the interview thing. But there's a one haunt you have to somehow get yourself down to, and it's not so much makeup related. They do very little in terms of set design, other than it's in a house. Tim probably knows already by now. There's a place in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, called Mysterious Mansion,
Okay.
and it's a whole it's this little old house that they have, and I literally think there's 2 actors that are in there, but they make it seem like there's 30 of them because they just crawl within spaces that you don't see, and it's almost like it's a combination haunt and maze. Like you don't know which way you're going, and there's little like traps and stuff that get set, and it's just I have to say, I always recommend that to people if they want it like a different kind of haunt, because it's not a lot of jumping out at things. It's just like you're walking and like someone will be appeared over your head, like just crawling. And it's like
that sounds pretty creepy. That sounds right up my alley. Like I would definitely go visit something like that.
Yeah, you definitely that's definitely got to be on your radar at some point. I know it's not exactly close, but
Yeah.
It's just cool that they can do that with such limited staff. It's just like the logistics of it's so cool. That's what I love about that haunt. But
Yeah, and going back to like different haunts I've been a part of, if you're familiar with the Lake George area, I worked Dr. Frankenstein's. Dr. Frankenstein's and Dr. Morbid's is the haunted wax
that's in
museum.
the town. Yes, okay,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that. Yep.
That was something where there was like limited actors. There was only like 2 or 3 of us on staff at a time, and it just kind of like clicked in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember a time when, and we sort of had to pull something off like that as well, where like we had limited staff, but we still had to like put on a great show every time,
But sometimes that's better because that really gets the creativity out there. I mean, anyone could just fill a house with like 500 people jumping out at you, but you get real better scares when you have limited staff and you have to just be really creative with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've never had an actual scare actor on the show, so I've always wanted to ask a scare actor because that sounds fascinating. Like, is it as fun as it looks, or is there like, I mean, does it get tedious? I mean, some of those rooms that we were walking through at Halloween Horror Nights, I was like, my God, if I had to stay in this room for like 20 minutes, that would be freaking insane.
Well, because I've been doing it since I was 14, I'm 29 now, so I've had quite the experience behind me. When I first started, they put me in what was called the Frankenstein room. You've said that you've gone to Great Escape before, so I'm not really sure like what years you've been there, but
It was recent. It was like the last like 5 years.
Oh,
I
okay.
was in
Then so
there,
you'll have
so
no idea what I'm talking about because
yeah.
this was, years and years ago, and they've changed up Skull Manor, which was like one of the 5 or 6 that they have now, but they've changed it up numerous times throughout all the seasons that I was working there. But anywho, my first season there in the Frankenstein room, basically they had like this giant Frankenstein prop where they gave you a metal pole that like activated this electricity wall. Like I don't even really know what to call it, but like you would take the pole and just like kind of scrape it up against it, and then that would trigger the prop to start like jumping around and like making all these crazy moves and like in your face kind of weirdness. And I did that for maybe like 2 or 3 groups, and their groups are usually about sizes maybe 12 to 14 people at a time, but
Oh wow, that's
um,
big. That's pretty big
y-
for
it'll depend on like how busy they are. That was like their general number, but like the less people that they had, they would obviously like cut that in half because it's a lot easier to get a good scare out of it and a good experience for everybody because you have to judge it by like, beginning, middle, and end of the line, like who's gonna really see the scare. But yeah, tedious, I think, is an understatement. Um, I have definitely been in many situations, that one included, where I'm just like, I'm there for barely 10 minutes and I'm like, okay, I'm really bored. I don't want to do this anymore. I've been in a lot of rooms where, like, if they needed to fill a spot, I was kind of one of their more reliable people because I was always there. I would do anything they wanted me to. A lot of like the button pushing and things like that, it really does just get like monotonous and you're kind of like, is there something else I can do here? Like, I have to admit, the worst part of being a scare actor, though, is it actually is kind of dangerous because you don't know people, you don't know how they're gonna react. You have a lot of different, like, you have the person that's gonna punch you in the face as a reaction. You
Hmm.
have the person that's going to like just faint or something, and then you have to call like
oh.
911 or something. But you have all different kinds of reactions. And so, I mean, I've been in a spot where I've been punched in the face, and
Oh
like a
no.
lot of it was like, you would like to think it was accidental, and they would try to tell you it was accidental, but there's no way. Like, I mean, it's a crazy life to live.
Oh my.
And you only get to do it for like a season, so it's usually like every weekend. So you only do it for like 4 weekends out of the month, and then you're done, and then you're just kind of like, oh, well, that sucks. What do I do now?
Well, you would love it if we came to one of your haunts because we pretty much have the same like MO. It's like so my wife just kind of walks ahead and like straight ahead and nothing scares her, and it's
Uh-huh.
pretty hilarious to watch people try. She walks ahead. I'm usually kind of watching that and kind of getting a laugh, and I kind of like I hate to say it. I kind of like I don't know. I guess I kind of can predict what stuff is coming. But then we have the Tim who gets who'll gets jump scared a lot, and his wife just pointing and laughing at him. So it's like, so it really is when the four of us go in, it's got I said like I bet we entertain the scare actors a little bit.
We probably do. I know I
It's
do because I'm a grown man that's
yeah.
jumping and screaming like
Yeah,
a little
and
girl.
I love those reactions. Like those are the absolute best. Like we'll get like the younger group of teenagers, and you know from the start that they're going to be really easy to scare because they walk in and they're just like, I don't want to go first, you go first. And
Yeah.
like we'll kind of spook them by being all like, it doesn't really matter which place you're in, like be all eerie about it. But I love when guests are entertained, and it's just so much easier to be a scare actor when the people that are walking through the attractions are like into it. Like it's always frustrating when you get the people who, and I never really understood why people will pay to go through a haunted house and be a jerk. Like
Yeah, I
Yeah.
you
don't know
get
why
that a lot.
yeah. And actually, I think my biggest downfall is that I want to look at the stuff on the walls and look at all the creativity in there,
Yeah,
and
me
they kind of
too, me
push you
too.
along, though.
And
I
like,
guess
I've been through most of the attractions I've worked for have been guided tours. So yeah, they're definitely like trying to push you along instead of like, check this out, like look at this detail, and then they'll they'll yell at me. I'll be like,
going.
sorry,
Get 'em
I just want
moving."
to see it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool because we got now like a bonus. Like I forgot like almost that like and I'd seen in your I think in your bio where it said that thing, but I forgot that like we could get all these characters. We'll have to have you back on again like around Halloween like time, and we'll go through like all the haunt talk again.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
yeah, for sure. Because that is something, I have a lot of experience with, and I could go on for hours talking about that. All my stories, the bizarre and the strange, and
Oh yeah,
the
we'll
okay.
awesome, like
we'll set that up.
yeah,
That's set
that
in
is
stone.
guaranteed. Just put yourself on this with somewhere on the calendar in October because
Because I want to
do
hear
a lot of
scare
haunt
actors'
centric.
stories. That sounds like that would be an awesome interview.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
definitely. I'd be down for that.
So here's a fun part for you. So tell us about all any upcoming projects you're working on or any kind of appearances you have coming up.
So right now, there's kind of like a big gap of projects. I was going to do some more cosplaying. I had it in mind of going to Saratoga Comic-Con, which I'm pretty sure you guys saw the pictures on my Instagram of myself and Tyler Main.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, that was the main reason why I went to this convention, because I knew he was going to be there, and like Rob Zombie's Halloweens, other than the original, I mean, they're my favorite, and he's my favorite Michael Myers. So I was just like, I got to meet this guy. And I was blown away on how tall he is. Like the guy is just a beast. Like I looked so small up against him, but anyway, that's off topic. I was going to cosplay Vanya from the Umbrella Academy. I don't know if you guys are into comics or anything like that, but it's out of like the horror genre, but I had plans to cosplay her. Again, kind of spoilers, but like towards the end, she has like this pale, gothy white face to her with like the I always forget the name of what they're actually called, but the contacts where they're like light blue in color. I was going to do that, and then she just had like a blazer and a business suit, and it was like a really simple outfit, but the problem was I couldn't find a violin, and I didn't really want to spend an arm and a leg on a cosplay that I was going to do for one day. I didn't foresee it being like a character that I would do again. Like usually when I cosplay, I try to avoid doing the same one over and over. Like I like to do different ones every time. And if I can, if it's possible, at New Jersey, the Red Riding Hood was actually like something I came up with. It was based off of Zenscope Comics. They had exclusive comic book art for a con that I went to in Philly. It was called Keystone Comic Con. And I bought the comic, and I just love the cover art, and I'm like, I have to cosplay that. So I did, and so I made like everything from scratch, and from there I've just kind of been like really involved in cosplay now. Like I really love just making everything from scratch and seeing if I can like come up with my own original characters. But so the cosplaying thing is like relatively new for me, but I noticed how it's been on the rise, and the makeup can really like you can put the two and two together, and it like pairs perfectly. So I can present myself showing like how good of a job I do with the makeup, and then also get into the new lifestyle of cosplaying at the same time.
That's cool,
awesome.
And that makes it so much easier. That's great because like then you could literally just like when because that's the first thing they're gonna say. They're gonna say, "Wow, what a great like costume! How did you do it?" And then you're like, "Well, funny you said that." And then
exactly
goes your business pitch right there.
Back in, I don't remember what year it was. I think maybe it was last year, or it might have been 2 years ago. But I went to meet Robert Englund at a con, and so I dressed up like Freddy Krueger, and I did my makeup like all burnt up on the one side of me, and I used like a whole mess of latex, and then I just like did the whole burn effect. Like it was pretty awesome. Like I don't mean
I think you had that on Instagram. You're right. You had that on there.
Yes, I do.
That's
on
right.
My
yes.
Instagram. I believe it's on my Facebook, and I'm not sure if it's on the page for my actual art, but it's definitely out there. Like people have seen it. But when I showed up and got to talk to Robert, he was so impressed. Like he didn't want to stop talking to me. He just like started going on about special effects and like how he sat for hours upon hours getting his makeup done, and like it was just awesome. And like everybody that was behind me in line was getting really irritated. They were just like, come on, like let's get a move on. But the fact that Robert Englund himself was really impressed with what I had done, even though it was like a last minute decision, and I put it together maybe in like 15 minutes max. The fact that he loved it, just, that's something that's a huge accomplishment for Fred Krueger himself to be like, hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, like to hell with those people on there. You're getting like the endorsement of a lifetime, back off.
And like he signed the photo to my favorite Elm Street bitch. So
that's
like,
awesome.
This is cool. Great. Like this is one of those moments that I'll never forget. So.
But that's makeup and special effects. Like I don't know anybody that doesn't like that kind of stuff, or that is not at some level impressed by it. Like I've never talked to anybody that goes, "Oh, I'm not into like special effects or makeup." Like I think everybody finds that fascinating. I think.
Yeah. I mean, like being the artist myself, like it's something that you have to have a passion for. Like you definitely can't just like put your foot in the door with it and be like, I just want to do this just for a paycheck. Like if you're doing it for the paycheck, you're in it for all the wrong reasons. Like it definitely has to be something that you're extremely passionate about and that you just can't see living a life without it. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it is because my birthday's on Halloween and I'll just always be drawn to it, but it's
you were born for it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your destiny.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe she's born for that. Is that how that goes?
Well, Cassie, thanks so much for being on the show. It was a treat. I mean, like Brian said, we got a bunch of bonus stuff in there with the scare actor stuff, and that was just awesome.
Yeah, and thank you guys so much for inviting me. Like, this is just, I mean, it's so surreal. Like, I've never had people so interested in what I do, and like the fact that you guys are trying to help me and get my name out there and be exposed, like that's so awesome. I can't thank you guys enough for it, really.
Oh, no. And thank you. Yeah, thank you again, too, for coming on. Because as I remember, we really, like, when we went to that con, we wanted to, we were more excited about just, like, meeting, sure, the guests and everything, more meeting the vendor tables, because that's always where you get, like, such creativity involved. And I remember when we were driving home, I mean, eventually it turned into just quoting Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But before that, when we were recapping the show, we were going through some of the vendors, and we were remembering getting to meet you and just some of your stuff and your story and how excited you were about it. It stuck with us. So it's really like such a pleasure to be able to get you on the show and talk more about it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's really good to hear. I'm so happy.
Hey, Cassie, where can we find you on social media? Tell everybody where they can track you down.
So I have like a couple of different pages where I can be reached. My personal Facebook is just Cassie Folts. That's usually where everybody tends to find me because I do have it in like the main bio listed Alexis Marie Artistry that I'm the owner. And then people can click on it from there and get to the page that way. And then, of course, my Instagram is the Cassers 1989, spelled out XCASSERS 1989X. So that's all my social media that I have for now. I do plan on eventually getting a Twitter and maybe a Snapchat, all the things that everybody's using. I mean, I had mentioned it before that I'm like very technologically special. Like I really I very rarely like update everything and stick with the times. Like I'm very old school. So
we're just old, so
the hang of things.
We're just old, no school involved. But no, but we'll also put it down in the show notes. We can put some of that stuff, and I've shared. I think some of your stuff. When you post stuff, we usually tend to try and share it too and stuff, and we'll make sure we help get it out there make sure the spelling's right and everything. So make sure people can find her pretty easily. Because I tell you guys out there listening, you were missing out if you don't look at her Instagram with some of the effects she's done. It's really, really impressive.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So we're going to sign off now. And Cassie, again, thank you so much for the interview. And we'll be back to the show.
Yep.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Okay, so that was a really good interview, Brian. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she was great. We're definitely going to have her on again, especially as haunt season approaches, because I could just tell she'll be like, we'll have like just another really fun time talking about haunts.
Yeah.
Like, as you know, Tim and I could talk forever about that stuff, and she seems like she really has a lot of stories to tell us, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. So this week is one of my personal favorites, RE-ANIMATOR from 1985, directed by Stuart Gordon. Of course, starring Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West, Bruce Abbott as Dan Kane, Barbara Crampton as Megan Halsey, David Gale as Dr. Carl Hill, and Robert Sampson as Dean Halsey. And after an odd new medical student arrives on campus, a dedicated local and his girlfriend become involved in bizarre experiments centering around the reanimation of dead tissue, as Vincent Price would say.
I love how his whole medical degree, he's just reduced to a dedicated local.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the first time I saw RE-ANIMATOR. I believe it was probably in the early 90s. Obviously, this was in 85. I don't think I saw this one on VHS. I think this was actually when I hit my DVD phase, and when I first got my first DVD player and was like really just catching up on my horror backlog. So when I saw this, and I absolutely loved it. I went through a string there where I did a lot of horror comedies, which this one is more horror than comedy than I remembered. After watching it again, because it really does have some crazy, crazy effects, which we'll get into.
Well, so much Lovecraft in it, so that's
but it does. But it's got this sly sense of humor running through the whole thing that I think is what, in my mind, it's always been a horror comedy to me.
Oh yeah, well, because if you think about the idea of it, is so like there's almost this ridiculousness to it, but yet it's I think that it's almost one of those things where there's Jeffrey Combs tries to be so intense that it becomes comedic, but in the best way possible,
right.
And that's not a knock in any way. That's actually like a high compliment.
That's right. Yeah. So, of course, as stated in the synopsis, Herbert West arrives on campus, and he is dedicated, I would say, is an understatement, to this quest to be able to reanimate dead tissue, and he becomes the roommate of a medical student and his girlfriend.
Who doesn't he look like a poor man's Breckin Mayer?
He does. He really does. But he is a very strange roommate, and we find this out when their cat disappears.
I love how Tim Sola he just preps that so well. It's just like, he's a strange roommate, and they find it out when his cat disappears.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this movie, the effects in it from the very start to the end are just insane. I was thinking about how to describe this movie, Brian, when before we started, and the best way I can describe it is it's almost like watching a magic act, where you're like, how the hell did they do that? Like, every scene.
It's all practical effects.
It's all practical stuff. And like every scene I was sitting there going, oh my God, I forgot about this part. How did they do that? How did they do that?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's what's so great about it too is that there's just when you think, I don't know, to me, it was like everything you think they're not going to be able to top the last thing, they kind of find a way.
Yeah.
In the next scene. And it's just like a obviously there's fun horror movies in ways of like just crazy over the top gore with no thing, but this kind of had the both to it. It like had a really horrific element to it, which obviously, like we said, there's some laughs in it, but I don't know if they meant it as a straight out laugh, but just I think the performances just are so like so intense that it makes me chuckle. But and also I was going to ask you, which version did you watch?
I watched the one on Shudder.
Okay, so I don't know do you know if that's the unrated? Because I know there's an R-rated, an unrated, and an integral version. I watched the integral version because I had that really great 2-disc box set where it had that version on it. And so what that was is just a little history. So I researched because I'm like, what the heck is this? The integral version. So apparently, I guess when it was released, the unrated version just had a lot of extra gore in it, like all the gore. And the integral version basically took the R-rated version, which had a little bit more plot to it and less gore, and they basically mashed them together. So you got basically the R version with all the plot and the unrated version with all the extra gore, And then you got this integral version, which was a little longer and basically complete. So it basically had the best of both worlds, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know what version.
That's the one I watched.
I don't know what version's on Shudder, but I'm guessing I had always seen the R-rated version because I'm sure that's what I first saw when it first came out. It was the only one available.
Probably, yeah, because I remember when I think I first watched it on VHS. I want to say possibly with Paul back in the day. We might have watched it on VHS. So
some of those scenes, I mean, are really. We'll get to that later. Probably in the trivia.
There's obviously one scene that makes this film stand out in a lot of memory. And I'll tell you, hats off to Barbara Crampton.
Yeah.
She was fantastic in this and a trooper.
But I guess we should run through some of the major plot points, I guess, to show you how this differentiates. This is based off the Lovecraft story, RE-ANIMATOR stories, with Dr. Herbert West, and the movie really is not very faithful to the Lovecraft version at all. It's basically just taking the name, and of course the Arkham Medical University, and there's some Lovecraft references in there. As a big Lovecraft fan, I've always known about this movie and its ties to Lovecraft, but it's a very loose tie. But it also makes it kind of fun because it grounds the movie into a mythos that I was familiar with when I first saw it. So it's kind of fun to see Arkham Medical University come up on the screen because Arkham is the major town in all the Lovecraft stories. Miskatonic University, you hear that one a lot. It's a fictional university that's in all the Lovecraft stories. But so I mentioned that Dr. Herbert West becomes a roommate with this medical student and his girlfriend. And they find out about his secret history, of course, when he reanimates their dead cat. And this is sort of like a Pet Sematary before Pet Sematary because these things.
Of course, you get that vibe. I said that too. I said, I wonder if this cat is what was the cat's name? I put it somewhere, but I don't know. Like I wonder if they're like buddies. You know, it's like these two. This in church. Yeah. You know, this cat.
Yeah, because they come back just aggressive and crazy and all that kind of thing. And so they decide they have to now that Dan is in on the secret, they decide to go and inject a corpse in the medical university to see if this stuff really works.
Yeah. But by the way, can I say, has there ever been a glowing green liquid that's ever been a good thing?
No.
In movies?
Which, in the trivia, that was glow stick juice, basically.
Yeah.
Which they said was the first time ever used on film, which astounds me. Unless this just came out. I don't remember when glow sticks first became a thing.
Well, it was before Ninja Turtles.
But I do remember, in the 80s, there was that was when neon colors first came out, where you could get neon color stuff. So maybe it kind of ties in with that. Maybe that was kind of when glow sticks were first being used. I don't know. So they go back and they end up reanimating a corpse. And of course, the corpse acts just like the cat. It goes crazy. Dr. Halsey comes in to this scene, and he is killed by the reanimated corpse.
Yeah. By the way, that's the worst security guard ever.
Yes, he is.
By the way that they have out there, he misses everything.
But I also like how nonchalant he is when he sees a headless corpse rise up in front of him. He's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, he watches it for a little bit and then decides to run and get help. But
now Dr. Halsey is dead, so Dr. West has to reanimate him, and now you get to this comedy of, well, how do we undo our mistakes? Well, we end up just making more trouble for ourselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's almost like it literally is the plot of every slapstick
film.
Yeah, like, oh my God, what do we do now?
Yeah. Or it's like,
but it's done in a horror.
Oh,
way.
I got to cover up this murder. I got to murder this guy. Now I got two murders to cover up. I better murder this guy. That kind of like.
What was that movie with it that actually where they it was I think it was was it one of there was a segment in one of the anthology where the guy killed someone and people keep spotting him and then he has to keep killing that person.
Oh, I don't know.
Something, I don't know. I want to say a Tales from Halloween or something, or I don't remember what it was, but it was some anthology where it's the guy had to keep killing people because every time he did something, someone else spotted him.
Oh, I don't know.
I gotta look that up. But
but so now we introduce our main villain of the film, Dr. Hill, who discovers what's going on because he takes charge of Dr. Halsey's reanimated corpse and realizes that it's actually a reanimated corpse and not that he's just sick or something. Which
in turn, that's what West and Kane were trying to get. Remember, they wanted to prove but they wanted to prove it to the other guy, the Dean Halsey, not necessarily this doctor, remember? Because that's why they wanted him there, because they wanted to prove to him that they could reanimate like a person, and they just, yeah.
Yeah, so West knocks Dr. Hill unconscious with a shovel because Dr. Hill has discovered this and now wants to plagiarize and take credit for West's reanimation juice, I guess, discovery. So he knocks Dr. Hill unconscious and kills him, basically decapitates him.
Yeah, with the shovel still.
Then reanimates his head and body separately.
But they're connected, though. That's the weird thing.
Which I've never seen before. It's kind of a cool idea, though. If like reanimate, like I've never seen that done in before this, where you reanimated two parts of the body separately.
Well, and then they kind of imply later on. You see the plot point that he can kind of control, like that guy can control other things. So I don't know if that's
and that's essentially what leads to the whole rest of the movie. Is we know that Dr. Hill's head can still basically telepathically control. I think in the trivia it said there was a plot point that was in the movie that they kind of cut out that would have explained it a little better, but. Yeah. He could basically...
Because I was going to say, it is a little confusing. I mean, you can figure it out why, but they really don't offer the explanation.
Yeah, so he basically ends up controlling all these reanimated corpses. And basically then it's just a big chaotic fight scene.
There's random naked
corpses running around, killing people. I mean, it's insane. It's insanity. The last half of this movie is just completely insane. And I had totally forgotten, like, I remembered all the main plot points of the movie, but I had totally forgotten how just insane the last, like, 20 minutes of this movie are.
Yeah, it's like a nonstop, like, crazy fest, really, what's going on. There's a lot going on.
But there's one scene in particular we alluded to earlier with Barbara Crampton where Megan is her name, the girl. Dr. Hill strips her naked and straps her to a table. And then he starts sexually abusing her, this was a disturbing scene.
Yeah.
And we find out in the trivia, and I had no clue about this until I read it, that this may have been the cause of a divorce.
Right, because it was, which I find stunning, because it's not like does the wife actually think that that's what was going on, like in real life or something? Like, I don't understand, like, why.
Yeah.
There had to have been something more that was just not.
Yeah, so, I mean, from the trivia, the actor who played Dr. Hill, apparently his wife got really upset at this scene, because he really is, I mean, it's an attempted rape, essentially, and... Yeah, it is very lewd, and she got really upset at the scene, and not long afterwards, they were split, so take that for what you will.
Yeah, I mean, and like they even said, like, I guess on the commentary, which now I got to listen to, because a lot of this trivia references that commentary track that's on my disc, and and they basically said, like, that I guess right after the screening, she like she stormed out during that scene in the screening, I guess, or something. I don't know, but I mean, it's been, and I got to tell you, Barbara Crampton, just alone before that even happens, just you got to hand it to her. I mean, she's literally strapped, like, nude on this table, legs wide up. I mean, that's like I can't imagine that being an easy scene to film.
No, it couldn't have been. But it was actually disturbed me on the rewatch. Yeah. I was like, ew, I totally forgot about that. But
it's like creepy on a couple of levels.
But what's interesting about this movie is there's no real happy ending to this. I mean, Dan escapes and with Megan, and Dr. West injects Dr. Hill's body with a ton of reanimation stuff, which causes him to go crazy, and then you get all the crazy entrails special effect, which is phenomenal, where he actually gets strangled by Dr. Hill's entrails.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. It's a really neat effect. But Dan and Megan get away, but Megan dies when one of the corpses strangles her in the elevator. I think it was an elevator, right? They were in when.
Yeah, because they were he got right as the elevator was closing, he reached in and got into
he got her strangled.
And then he ran, and then I guess, Kane, he goes running off to go get an axe, and I think if he just fought the guy off, he might have saved her, but I don't know, I guess he panicked. But, and then it's that whole parallel, because that scene, I mean, we didn't really say it, but in the opening scene, he fails to save someone.
Right.
Who dies, and so that was like almost like and then it's a mirror image of it later on, and he just doesn't. But now at least he has something that he knows he could.
Yeah, and that's why I love the ending of this movie is she's now dead. He can't resuscitate her unless he injects her with the reanimation agent, and that's when you cut to black. So you now you get the sense of this chaos that they've just been through is just going to keep going and going and going because they can't stop.
Like it's not, and he's all in now with that whole thing, and I think the whole, it's like, I mean, if you think of what he's seen a homicidal cat that just goes crazy, and then he saw the other guy that went crazy, but then he saw the other doctor that kind of was talking a little bit, and then there was a clue that where I guess Dean Halsey recognized Megan, I think, right? There was a part where he kind of was talking to her and he fought off the other zombies. So there was like, it seemed like, I mean, as an audience member at least, that they're not far off from getting it right, I guess, if they get the right dosage possibly.
Right. Yeah. But. So it's a downer of an ending, I guess, technically, but I really loved it. I loved that they didn't just tie it up nice and neat and all the zombies got killed and everybody's happy and everything's fine. It's just basically the chaos broke long enough for them to just start it all over again.
Except Barbara Crampton's so great, and I like, it's sad when she gets killed in a movie because she's awesome. But
yeah, the effects in this movie are just incredible. You got corpses walking around with no heads. You've got heads sitting there with no body and talking.
Yeah, I love the when they decide to. It was funny, and it kind of goes to the trivia too when they decide he tries to sneak in by putting a like I guess a prop skull on his head to walk in, and then Barbara Crampton, I guess in the commentary, said, "Why didn't they just put the other head on?"
Its real head.
And it's true. Why?
Yeah.
Why didn't they?
And some of the trivia here was cool. Like they used 24 gallons of fake blood during the shoot. So that was the bloodiest film Nolan, I guess, who was the special effects guy, had ever worked on. In the past, he had never used more than 2 gallons of blood on a film. So more than 10 times the amount of blood. We already talked about kind of how this was very loosely based on H.P. Lovecraft's story. Originally it was supposed to be filmed in black and white, which, I don't know, the amount of gore in this movie, I would hate to see this in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wanted the gritty feel, but I think he still got the grittiness in color. I mean... Yeah.
This one was funny. There's a woman Dan's attempting to resuscitate at the beginning of the film, who is apparently a dildo enthusiast and was known to hide dildos with the fake corpses in the morgue set. I don't know how you become one of those. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, how does one decide they're going to be a dildo enthusiast? It's like what is that? What is that exact? I mean, I know we're coaster enthusiasts, we call ourselves, but
well,
does she go around to different
She get credits for this?
Does she collect different styles and shapes? I'm not sure what that entails.
The Dr. Herbert West reanimates in the opening scene is named Hans Gruber, the same name of the villain in Die Hard.
Yeah, I caught that one right. I mean, who didn't catch that one right away? I mean,
so was that intentional or coincidental? I wonder with the Die Hard people.
Well, I mean, Die Hard was after, right?
Yeah.
By a year or
3
2?
years.
So I mean, it was 3 years. Yeah. So I don't. I mean, if anything, it was obviously Die Hard that
That's what I'm saying.
Unless that was in the book.
What if they were in the were they Reanimator fans?
I don't know. I mean, Hans Gruber does sound like a great villain name, so I don't know.
And it could be I don't know. It may be common German name. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Hans, I mean, you hear a million times. I don't know the Gruber part.
Yeah, it's just a fun movie. It's got great effects. Again, the story's not really convoluted. It's pretty just like Brian said. It's the plot of every slapstick movie you've ever seen, slapstick comedy, where things just keep spiraling out of control. Like,
you could literally make this, if you decide to make this a true comedy, all you got to do is add in oh, golly gee, I did it again, it's like, and then you have, next thing you know, you have, comedy,
But there's something about it because, and I don't quite know how to explain it, it's just this very, I guess it's Stuart Gordon's sense of humor comes through this movie because it's not overtly comedic. It's this sly wink comedy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just this so over the top and so crazy that it's kind of like a nod to the horror fans in the audience. You're gonna like this. This is cool. And you either get that or you don't. I think most people do get it because this movie is a classic for that reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, if you like horror comedies, if you like just over the top gore, if you think that stuff is hysterical, if you think if you see these crazy effects and think those are like laugh out loud funny, you're gonna love this movie.
I mean, and it's almost like a precursor to like some of those Peter Jackson ones, like Dead Alive, and it's kind of like that kind of craziness to it. But yeah, I highly recommend. I have to say the 2-disc set because I didn't have time to go through all the special features, but I know I'm gonna go back and watch the commentary track and listen to the commentary track on this because just by some of the trivia alone that they were saying, how it seems like there's some gems on this thing. And then there's a whole, like, I think an hour and a half documentary on there, and there's just a lot of cool stuff on
I'd
this.
really love to see the musical they did, too. Was it a musical or just a stage show? I don't remember.
I can't remember, actually. No,
I remember hearing about it on one of the, I think it was Shockwaves or before when they did Killer POV. That sounded insane, because they used a ton of blood and stuff. Like they said you would get splatter with blood if you were in the front row.
Well, that was like the Evil Dead. I remember when Seth and I saw that. I mean, the first 3 rows, I think it was like the splatter zone they called it, and they gave you like a plastic tarp.
Yeah,
so
that would be really cool to see. So, Brian, what did you have for our beer pairing?
Well, this one is one of the. This one turned out to be a no-brainer, and this has got to be, I think, go on record for the longest description for a beer. But I wanted to include it all because it was, it seems like it goes into the whole basis of the thing. And this is it's RE-ANIMATOR Hell's Lager, and it's by one of my favorite breweries, the Narragansett Beer Company, which of course our good buddy Quint from Jaws used to drink Narragansett. And and I remember that it's just a basic average. It's definitely not a craft beer company, but this one is more like leaning towards crafty beerness. But yeah, I just want a good quality beer, good quality average beer. Narragansett never disappoints. But anyway, this one is Hell's Lager, a RE-ANIMATOR Hell's Lager, and it's 6.5%, 35 IBUs. And here's the description. So settle down and
wait, let me pop my
get comfortable.
LaCroix. It's a French beverage.
Yeah. So here's the description. It says, "Our Bock is back and stronger than ever. 6.5% alcohol by volume and 35 IBUs. We've reanimated our classic Bock by dry hopping it with Czech Saaz to punch up the hop presence and add a sophisticated and spicy twist. Brewed with a light and dark Munich malts, Pilsner malt, and malted wheat, the RE-ANIMATOR is then hopped with Northern Brewers and Hallertau hops. Northern Brewers is a clean bittering hop, and Hallertau is a classic German aroma hop associated with Bavarian-style lager beers." By the way, this has still got a while, so still stay relaxed. "We then dry hop the brew with a blend of Czech Saaz, Hallertau, and Citra hops," which is one of my favorites, by the way, actually, Citra hops, "for an added hop presence. RE-ANIMATOR is drier and hoppier than a traditional Bock, and by dry hopping at the end of the process, we've added a full layer of spicy complexity on the palate and a sweet floral aroma. The beer pours a deep, clean gold, producing a large, creamy, persistent white head. Despite its full body, the flavor is not overly malty and delivers an elegant, spicy character from the hops that produces a balanced, smooth finish." And now we're just getting to the history of this beer. It says, "H.P. Lovecraft's Herbert West RE-ANIMATOR and the 1985 film adaptation, RE-ANIMATOR are horror fan favorites. In the story, Dr. West and his accomplice experiments with human reanimation by injecting fresh corpses with a serum meant to bring the dead back to life. We wanted to create a serum to resurrect one of our own, our beloved Bock beer." So they went
really
all out
did.
in the theme of this beer. So that, at some level, may be one of our most perfect beer pairings yet.
Yeah,
then.
it's definitely on the nose.
Yeah.
So our triple threat last week, we asked you to come up with a fictional character. Clue 1.
We didn't get any
No
answers. Nobody.
We should have. This was a fairly easy one, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know why nobody reached out and gave us some.
Yeah, we probably. I don't remember if we posted
guesses.
the clues or not. Though we probably should have done that.
No, we didn't. We need to get better at that. That's my bad. I'm usually tasked to do that, and I did not do it.
So, clue 1: the actor who played me played another character that also liked to hang around a specific area. This character was portrayed by Kane Hodder, who have also played Jason Voorhees, who hung around Camp Crystal Lake, similar to where this character hung out. I've been portrayed by 2 different actors. One was a man, the other was a woman. This character was played by Kane Hodder, and also in younger form by Riley Vanderbilt. And then clue 3, a curse, a fire, and a sharp object all lead to my current state. This character was cursed by his mother and was born disfigured. He also became trapped in his cabin during a prank gone wrong, leading to a fire, which in turn led to him accidentally being killed by a hatchet to the face by his own father. Of course, we're talking about Victor Crowley. So that last clue is probably your biggest clue to get that one.
Yeah, I think clue 2 is a really tricky one, and I purposely put it as clue 2 because the first one I think you might be starting to guess, but then the second one is very odd because how often do you get a character played by the same character played by a man and a woman? It's like, you're like, whoa, you got to think. And actually, I that's like pure trivia that I happen to know, but based off of another thing I read. I think I saw it in a documentary or something. Yeah. But yeah, and that actually Riley Vanderbilt was a one-time wife of the director Adam Green. So, and she actually was in the first Hatchet film, by the way. She was one of the I think she was somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think I remember that from the commentary, actually,
yeah. Yeah, and she was in Digging Up the Marrow. She was in, she did some little Star Wars short films. She did a lot of, super cool nerdy stuff in there, so she was good.
All right, so this week we're going to have you come up with an actor or actress. This one could be tricky. This one could be hard. All right, clue number 1. I have battled Bigfoot, flying sharks, and even psychotic, vengeful children. Clue number 2. I started working when I was 16 and went on to star in over 100 independent films. And clue number 3. My first film was a horror comedy adaptation of one of Shakespeare's classics.
So once again, I think the third clue is usually the one I like to give as the, kind of like the real helper clue, kind of,
So actor or actress for that one. Should be interesting. That one's kind of middle of the road, I would say. Maybe a little on the harder side.
Yeah, and actually, based on those first 2 clues, if I were to look at this, there'd definitely be someone that would come to mind, but it'd be the wrong one. So.
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up here. We'll be back next week with some more fun and surprises. Of course, look us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, civilgorepodcast@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line, get those iTunes reviews in if you want a chance to win that prize pack. And I promise we will get some pictures posted of some of those prizes. I just did not have time this weekend, but we'll definitely get those put out there for you guys.
Yeah, and join us as this drops, I guess, tonight, because I know hopefully both of us will be able to get in there and tweet for the newest Last Drive-In. It sounded like he gave a couple of clues this already that seemed pretty fun. A lot of people are guessing it could be My Bloody Valentine. I don't know if that's going to be it because that seems like an odd choice just randomly like that.
Yeah, so join us for that. That'll be fun. I'm definitely got to make one of those now that the Twitter game is strong with Joe Bob's Drive-In.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's really, really fun.
All right, guys, so we'll see you back here next week, and stay away from those glow sticks.
And remember, when you download this, listen or not.